Recording. Hi, another class of Latin Nikki Live. We were experiencing operating difficulties where we have no excuses though, where everybody's fine and doing well. We're continuing our series. The intention of this class is to
They can.
make or help individuals that are non-religious and have valued the Bible or think it's a valuable document to give you kind of a perspective, um, an understanding of how it can be used in everyday life. And so, what we call it is we make the Bible a realized document, meaning we make it possible for you to use the stories in everyday life. Because I understand that in the Muslim world and the Christian world, that's not a reality. There's no discourse on every story. It just is what it is. So, but we're not here to compare who has what. We're not teaching religion. What we're teaching is a palatable way of looking at a 3,700-year-old document, book, that holds not just a moral standard for us and guides our intellectual, emotional, spiritual perception of reality. Why is that important? I'm just going over basics. It's important because the foundation of how you perceive reality dictates how you're going to engage with reality. So if you're raised with uh, by a mother who's always waiting for the other shoe to drop or lives in worst case scenario, those are going to be your standards as well because we learn from our mothers. And so if your mother has enormous drive and is always in shape and she sets that standard, that's what you're going to do. But your perception, intellectual, spiritual, and otherwise is set by your conscious understanding. So if you were raised Christian and God is a person and you understand God to be um, uh, Jesus, then he's a godlike figure. But then it has its that perception gives you the understanding that you have. In other words, your relationship with the Bible or sacred documents like the Bhagavad Gita, Japji, the Quran, the New Testament, the Old Testament, as you call it, that's what gives you your morality and your conscious understanding of reality. Because ultimately, we all relate to how do we treat our dogs? Well, in the Torah, it says that we feed our dogs first. Why? Because they can't feed themselves. That's how you start to understand as a little child, if your parents don't teach you, in certain countries that practice Islam, dogs are haram, which is unclean.
But the interesting thing is that the Bible doesn't say it word for word, you should feed your dog before you feed yourself. It's embedded in the stories. So the point we're trying to make here is from every story we derive laws and we derive ways and conscious understanding on how to go through the human experience in a much easier way.
Because ultimately, to be realized and to have tools to deal with everyday's ups and downs, you have to have a conscious perception of reality, meaning understand the underlining and how you can be effective in creating what you want instead of what you don't want. That's the goal here. Oh, somebody just smacked us with a question. But how does the idea match our worldly needs or desires? Which idea?
Okay, so it says, you say we should acknowledge that everything is perfect the way it is, as God only creates perfection. Agree with that, but how does the idea match our worldly needs or desires? We are souls living a human experience. Isn't it normal for us to have desires, goals, needs? I mean, we can't just lay there and don't move a finger because everything is perfect in its imperfection, right?
No, no one expects you to do that. The only way you can effectively create something if you're not laying there passively. The whole realized concept, the idea of becoming realized, moving yourself out of being absorbed by your twisted intuition, your uh, conspiracies, your hates, your assumptions, your future talk. The whole idea of doing that is to move you into actively participating with the creative source in creating what you desire. So, yes, it may be perfect. My dog is perfect, but she needs boundaries. If I don't give her and teach her boundaries, she'll poop everywhere on the table. If I show you, she's laying on the table now. So, children need boundaries. They need to understand that you can't give them. We've talked about this in one of our classes. If you give a kid a menu, he's going to order dessert. So it's our job to give them boundaries and teach them what may or may not be appropriate, not good or bad, because in India, a cockroach is a sacred being. For me, it's a cockroach. I'm going to smash it. So then perception is everything. I can look
In
at
India,
it.
you would eat it.
No, they wouldn't eat it. That's not true.
Yeah, they eat bugs.
No, but they wouldn't. No, no, but it's a sacred being. For Hindus, cockroaches are sacred and they don't need to be killed. They just need to be left alone. For that matter, then perception, everything is perception. It's the relationship you choose with a thing that provides you the relationship. So if you're a passive recipient of everything, as our friend Maria would say in her question, yes, everything's perfect, but it comes here for refinement, and refinement happens through relationship and correctness, understanding of correctness.
So I think there's an idea that because God is perfect and God runs the world and God does everything, then we don't need to do anything. Because if God already does, what do I need to do? Where is it that I need to participate? What is it that I need to actually do in my little human body that has no ability because I'm less than God? I'm little and God is almighty and all powerful and God's got control of everything. So you know how they say, don't worry because God's got control. So how do you how do you manage that idea that okay, you need your participation, but then God runs everything?
I think we addressed this, but I'm happy to repeat
Well,
it.
it seems like it's coming back because she's saying how are we supposed to just sit back and not move a finger?
Nobody
But
said,
the idea is
first of
to
all,
not
no
move a
one
finger.
says, nowhere in the Bible does it say, as a matter of fact, everything, every story, including today's story of Jacob and Esau, every story has action in it. There's no one that is passively receiving anything. Even the slaves, when the Hebrews left Egypt, they were receiving manna, uh, meaning they received from the heavens, and whatever they thought it to be, it became, which meant it was you were actively participating in perceiving it in some way.
So they received nourishment, and whatever their desire was,
Mm-hmm.
it became that. So
right.
if you thought it was a roasted chicken,
Right.
you would have roasted chicken for
Right.
dinner.
So that's another proof that the world is a realized place and that the Bible is a realized document. So then there's nothing that's passive in the Bible, and there's nothing passive about creation. The law of attraction is passive, but the law of creation is very active because in order to effectively create something, if you have a desire to have 14 Ferraris, that's great, but you have to make that happen. You can desire till you're blue in the face, but you have to actively move towards creating a reality where you can have 14 Ferraris. Is it necessary? No. Um,
It could be necessary for
right?
somebody.
Is it a conscious desire? No, it is not. How do you gauge what's conscious and what isn't? Do you really need 14 Ferraris? No. You can only drive one car at a time. So, the point is that desire and passion are two different things.
But you definitely say that in every story there's no passivity. There's
Nothing.
there's constant participation
Yeah.
from the beings, and is this participation with this flow that's constantly creating and sustaining us that allows for the events to unfold for these people.
I'll give you a real life example that in the movies, if all of you have seen The Matrix, Lawrence Fishburne, as he moves forward, the tiles go underneath his feet as he moves forward. Right? So that's how the creator provides for us. So as you move forward towards your goal, then it provides you with the appropriate people and the appropriate circumstances to pursue your goal. Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist, says the universe conspires to help those who follow their dreams. Everything in the Bible is like this.
So if we look at the Matrix, you need to move through life like he moves through those tiles. He has a certainty that in every step there's going to be a tile there. He doesn't wonder. He doesn't think, well, what if the tile doesn't come? Maybe I'm going to fall. There's none of that. There's a certainty that he's being completely supported, right?
So,
in the way we think it.
So here, this is where observance of your respective religion comes into play, because you can say, yes, of course, it's like Jesus walking on water, of course, because he was water. And so, of course, he walked on water. So you can say that, oh, my religion doesn't allow that, or doesn't allow meditation, or doesn't allow chanting, whatever. In order for you to live at a level where you can make things happen, you don't take ayahuasca, you become observant, meaning you become disciplined so that you gather yourself through the laws of your religion that you were brought up in, and you understand that those are just guidelines so that you can live at a higher frequency where you can actually be an active participant in your reality and not a passive recipient. It's fine to have desire as long as it's conscious. If it's desire that lives in below your waist, well, it's also attainable, but it doesn't take you anywhere.
I think something else is we have a mix between as souls. We come to this human experience to, let's say, to work on something, right? Each person has their own process, but then we come as humans, and then we have all these desires and all these wants and all these needs, and we think just because we want it or need it, that's what we need actually in life. And maybe that's not what's going to bring us to wherever it is that we need to go to learn what we need to learn. Like the example of the Ferrari or whatever desire you have in life. I may have a desire, but is that desire for me?
My mother, who's in this class, will tell you or confirm for me that in the early years of when I was a kid, I sang in theaters in the former Soviet Union. And I thought, when we came to the States, that was kind of lost and went by the wayside because my parents were busy trying to survive in a new country and learn the language. But once I realized that I can actually perform again, I went ahead and attempted to perform. And I realized that it's great. I mean, I love being able to sing and perform and be an effective actor, but it's short-lived, it's mediocre. The people involved are full of shit and they don't know anything, and they're phony and nondescript and have no life and empty. And so that help me make a decision. That life is not for me.
But you needed to experience it this way,
yes,
precisely so you can make this decision, because it was not intended for you to be a singer.
So people would say in New York, in my late 20s, when I lived in New York City, and I was actively pursuing acting, and people would complain and say, well, I'm a starving artist. I wasn't starving. I didn't care if I was a tree. I still got paid, and I was, as long as I was on the set, and I was an extra and getting paid for $200, I was good because I was amongst actors, other people who were doing the craft, and it didn't matter to me. I couldn't understand why they keep calling themselves starving artists. They chose to starve. So, but then once you realize that it's a contrived industry and everything is based on falsehood and everything is a lie and it's short lived and it's not real, and there's a handful of people that actually make it to be anything. And if you choose the life of a performer, it's a struggle and you have to really love, you have to be willing to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? So the truth is, the reason I'm bringing it up is because you can make anything work for you, but is it really for you? In the process, you figure out, liberal arts is really not for me. My daughter took an internship with the Department of Defense. Listen to this. She goes to DC. She thought she was going to be, actually, we thought Theodore was going to be the public service guy, the senator, he's so upright. So Luella, she's in her third year of University of Michigan, and she takes an internship with the Department of Defense because she wants to be in public service and run for office and so on. She has the background and so forth. She couldn't wait to get out. She finished 3 months. She called me up. She said, "That is the worst thing that I've ever done." I said, "Why?" Because it's all working class folks. They're not really, they don't have big dreams. They're all army people. They're happy to have a salary that's capped. They're happy to have their 3 weeks of vacation. They're happy to have their life or health insurance. And that's their goal. I can't live like that. And that's how you figure out where you belong, whether it's for you or not. It's not for everyone. In my 30s, I thought I was going to do international trade, and and my soul and the creative force completely redirected me. I ended up in a place where I had no choice but to kind of look at myself honestly, and then I was exposed to my talents and my ability to see things and to heal and so on. So ultimately what we're saying is sometimes your passion and your underlying desires are really not where you belong. And the way you do it is you really go ahead and discover them to the fullest by applying yourself, and then you'll see, whether you really want to do it or not.
I think a lot of times we think that that's the passion for us. This is my passion. This is what I really like and what I really want. But when I start really getting in touch with myself and really connecting to my soul, attending to myself, and really paying attention to me, and then I develop this intense energetic connection with my soul, then all of a sudden things start to change because the passion is not the same. Now I have a different passion. So it was more like a contrived passion. I thought it was. I thought that was it. But now that I really aligned to myself and to my truth, now it changed. So as we gather ourselves and as we connect really with ourselves and our souls, then we we discover a different way. And this is the way that guides us, because our soul is constantly guiding us. So the closer we are, then
I want to
the better
emphasize
direction.
also that to kind of circle back to center to the Bible, that every single character, including Moses, went through this refinement process to discover themselves. Remember, Moses was pulled out of water and became a prince of Egypt, and he actually built bigger than the son of the Pharaoh. He became more effective because he was born realized. And then he chose, by being in the physical material world, then he chose to live the life of the oppressed. He had both sides in him, right? So we all have both sides. We all have an oppressor and the oppressed in ourselves. Once we're willing to honestly look at ourselves and move that aside so that we can be effective in pursuing what we truly are. So, you know, starting this practice, there were times I couldn't pay the rent. I didn't know how I was going to make it. And I wouldn't give up. So I pursue it. And I couldn't imagine myself advertising. I never have. I never even had a business card. I think I had one. I had printed one, but I was embarrassed to give it out. And this was, I don't know, 1998. And so I couldn't imagine myself. I would ask my ex, what am I going to do? Go in the middle of the street and wave a flag that I heal people and I can see things? I mean, what can you do? How do you promote yourself in this field? So this is this choice that I made, my conviction, not just some delusion I had, and some folks I know who think they're artists. And I devoted myself to learning how far I can go with my abilities, and I tried to use them in every aspect of the human experience. Ultimately, most of the things I've been involved in, the people that are involved in those fields, I wouldn't sit next to in a movie theater or I don't know, share toilet paper with. Is I found that all of the things that I tried looking at oil fields. I've used my abilities to look at buildings for some of the biggest you know funds that own tons of property in New York City. I've tried to look at the market. I've tried to do everything imaginable, and I realized that it constantly takes me back to center, that the intention of my soul is to help others refine themselves so they can be this way, so they can effectively co-create reality, so they can heal themselves. That there's no so there's it's always I always come back to center. No matter how much I try to deviate. 3 years ago, it's no secret that I went to Romania. I wanted to do scrap metal and some other things. And as much as I love Romania and Romanians, I adore them. I felt like I fell into a country with all my best friends. But do I want to sit in Romania and sell scrap metal? No, I do not. This is who I am. I ended up healing people in Romania. So that I always go back to center. And the reason people introduced me to other people in Romania, it wasn't for scrap metal, it was for what I do. So no matter how far I veer off course, it always comes it. When I say it, what is it? The purpose of my soul and the way it expresses itself into the human experience. Regardless of how I try to deviate, yes, I'm telling you, I've learned, I can't tell you how many different subjects and about how many different businesses and ideas and the stuff that I've inserted myself into. It's it's yet to work out, and but this is what feeds me. Not only does it feed me, it's giving me a incredible view of reality and engaged me with some of the most interesting people in the world.
But you end up, for the most part, treating or healing these people one way or another.
Yeah.
In whatever field you try to pursue. So this is what I was saying about the purpose and how the soul guides you. So maybe he wanted to go do scrap, but he was intended to go heal somebody who happens to work in the scrap industry, and that's how it all arranged itself so he could make it there. Can we transition to the Bible, the stories?
Yeah.
So we left off where Abraham and Sarah, they had a son, right? Isaac. And Isaac later on married Rebecca. And Isaac and Rebecca have Jacob and Esau. And then Jacob and Esau, when Isaac is really old and he's about to pass away, he's supposed to give a blessing to each son, but he's supposed to give the biggest blessing to the firstborn. But the firstborn is Esau. And Esau in this world is considered the rebellious child. He wasn't bad. He's not depicted as a bad person. He was just rebellious.
He's slick.
But on the other hand, Jacob was very kind and very correct and very honorable.
I have to. I can relate to the story more than anyone. I have both Esau and Jacob. Theodore is Jacob, and Sam is Esau. Oh, look, Esau was really bright and very special and very sharp with his mouth. He was respected because
He was a fighter.
was a
He was a
leader.
hunter. He was a great person. He was just not all about
He wasn't on
learning Torah.
He was slick.
But his interests were a little different. You know,
He sold his blessing for a bowl of soup, for God's sake. How smart do you think he was?
he was smart. His interest wasn't in Torah. Jacob's interest was in Torah.
Wait, so the more important aspect of this story is that it says that it's misrepresented in the Christian world because uh, Jacob is considered the liar. They call him Jacob the liar. It's not true. He wasn't a liar. Isaac was special. He had abilities, and he was blind. So I always give this example. If you wrapped my head in foam and put tape around it, put a bucket on top, I can tell you what side Theo and Sam were standing on because I can feel them and smell them. Even if I couldn't smell them, I know exactly the thickness of their energy and their soul. So Isaac was very special. He knew exactly who was standing next to him. When he asked Jacob, "Who are you?" he said, Jacob's response was, "Esau is your first son." He didn't say, "I'm Esau." But he did let his mother put sheep hair on his arm because Esau was hairy. By the way, the Romans come from Esau.
But he made a deal. Jacob made a deal with Esau and asked him if he would sell him his birthright because he clearly didn't care about all this connection to God and Torah and learning.
Wait, but they didn't have Torah yet.
But they had their version of Torah.
So no. So what they had was Isaac's understanding, a realized understanding of reality. And this is what we're doing. That was the blessing. That's what giving, when it says he gave Jacob the blessing, he gave him the ability to discern and the ability to choose his outcomes instead of living at the mercy of reality. And then Jacob went on his mission. He wasn't just hiding. It says that Jacob was hiding from Esau. He wasn't just hiding. He was going through his refinement process. Remember, he ends up in a place. What's Bilam?
Laban.
Laban.
It's his uncle.
So his uncle has two beautiful daughters, Rachel and Leah, and apparently it says that he was confused and Laban fooled him and made him marry both girls. That's not the view. The correct view of looking at it is that Jacob was going through his refinement process. Laban recognized that he had the ability to effectively co-create reality. They got rich while Jacob was living there because he could manifest. He can literally understood consciousness. But why did he end up there? Because he had Rachel represents love and Leah represents hidden desire. So he was working on himself to overcome both issues, to realign himself the correct way. And so that's how reality presents itself to us. We have an opportunity to realign ourselves. It's my desire to ship 100,000 tons of scrap metal per month. Do I like the people that are involved in the business? No, they're simple as dirt. I mean, they're not people I would hang out with. But it's lucrative. So am I willing to lower my standards to go hang out in Croatia or Venezuela for 3 months at a time to ship 100,000 tons of scrap metal and deal with savages? No, this is not who I am. I can do it. Yes, I can. It's true. But it takes me away from my reality. Can I manifest it? Yes. So all of these stories are very similar. They show you that all of the characters of the Bible went through their own refinement process. From Abraham choosing not to sacrifice his son, and his willingness to sacrifice the best of himself, to Jacob and his willingness to look at himself. It took him 22 years to make peace with his brother. It's very interesting. A lot of the characters in the Bible, it takes them 22 years to recognize themselves.
Actually, I heard today that it had been 34 or 37 years since they hadn't seen each other.
How much?
34 or 37 years.
Since Jacob and Esau saw each other?
Since they had seen each other, which was interesting because I don't know if they count travel time as extra years. I don't know where the timeline goes, but
I want to charge for travel.
But so Jacob spent all these years working at Laban's house, and through his work, he becomes really, really wealthy, and he makes Laban really wealthy. So Laban doesn't want him to go because he's bringing all this to him. And eventually he says, okay, I have all these kids, I have my wives and their lady helpers and all their kids, and it's time for me to go. So he decides to leave with all his family and all his cattle and his all his belongings. He does give Laban a huge piece. He pays him, and then Esau finds out. Messengers go out to Esau, and he realizes that his brother is coming.
Okay, stop. So let's make it realistic. It's not as if Laban lets him go. It's that Jacob has overcome his desire and chose love, and now he's able to go to the next stage of his reality and achieve.
Well, he actually lives against Laban's.
Yeah, because Laban would
he didn't want to.
If we consider it a realized reality, and that Laban is his captor, so to speak, then it's Jacob who kept himself hostage with his idea, the fact that he judged himself for stealing his brother's blessing, because Laban was using him for success.
Right, and there was deception in Laban too. He deceived him with telling him, oh, you're going to marry my daughter Rachel, but in turn gave the daughter Leah first, and it's not it was not the deal they had.
So if you're encountering deception, most likely there's deception in you. That's how you encounter it, so you can overcome it. So I want to keep track and keep coming back to center, so you understand the workings of the story. So then all of a sudden he leaves with all his belongings, which means he earned the spiritual right to move forward and use his blessing that he received from his father. He moves on with Rachel. Love.
Rachel, Leah, and all the kids, everybody leaves.
His brother finds out that he's on his way to some town, some obscure town, and his brother's a gangster. He has 400 men with him. Esau
has his own army. He was a fighter. He was a soldier, and so he has his own army. So he sends a message that he will be waiting for him to fight him with 400 men. So then Jacob, he wants to prepare for war, but he also wants to love his brother and send him gifts. So
he doesn't want to really love his brother. He just wants peace.
He sends him and he sends him gifts.
He doesn't want to be able to have to be afraid of his brother. So what he does is he sends him heads of cattle. What does it mean? He engages in the possibility that the brother might have changed and chose peace, and he gives him, kind of opens the door to a new possibility.
Well, in this process, he encounters either a mystical man, some call him an angel, so let's call him an angel. He encounters an angel that tells him first that his name is going to change, and second that there's a wrestle with this angel.
Wait, so the some people say it's Esau's angel. Some people say that he encountered just an angel.
Some people literally say he encountered the other side of himself.
Right. He encountered his struggle because he knew his brother was going to kill him. Out of fear, he struggled internally and was divided between choosing his outcome, which is truly his blessing. And that's what he learned how to do from his father, or preparing for the worst, as we all do. And in the process of being divided, he dislocated his hip. It says that he wrestled with the angel.
And the angel dislocated his hip. These are the words.
Hips, the physical part of the body, represent balance. When we wrestle with ourselves, whether to be in fear or choose the outcome that we want, we cause ourselves to be out of balance. And so it's not as if Esau was going to kill him, but there is you can insinuate that there was a fear. So the fear life that we have causes us to constantly fear death and demise and obstacles and adversaries. And the life of understanding and realized perception causes us to be able to be in control of our choices, and we choose them and move forward, and therefore reality is created based on our choices and our willingness to move forward. It's called the power of deliberate intent.
So, so the story says that when eventually they met, and Esau, who was supposed to engage his brother in war and try to kill him, actually embraced them, and they wept, they cried, wept on his shoulder, and they kissed him. So the story says that God softened Esau's heart and he embraced his brother.
It's a resolve for both of them. Jacob's decision to come out with gifts created a situation for him where he affected Esau as well with his decision not to choose conflict.
Well, he chose to see him with different eyes. He didn't choose to see him
So
as the guy
for everyday life, when you choose your outcomes and you encounter adversaries or you're encountering some sort of big decision, if you choose it to be the way you want it to be, then that choice will dictate the relationship that you have chosen with that thing or person. And so then you encounter the individual based on not on your old perception and your views of them on how they were, but you understand that it's your perception and your power of deliberate intent that creates your and affects your reality constantly. So then you encounter what you have been pursuing. Ultimately, the the funny part is that Esau is the Romans and Jacob is the Jews. And so, if in Brooklyn, when I was a kid, they used to say the Jews need the Italians for protection, and the Italians need the Jews for direction. So, so the truth is, we don't need anybody for protection anymore. We smashed the shit out of the whole half 7 countries, but that's not the point. The point is that that the Romans are Esau. They're brilliant inventors. They're incredible singers. They're incredible designers, creators. But ultimately, if you look at the country, it's always in conflict. Always some sort of something unfolding, always struggling with the mafia. Everything ends with a sword. And that was Esau's issue. Remember that when they make peace, Esau does open his heart. He does receive the father's blessing, but he does struggle ultimately with the sword. Everything ends with the sword.
I was listening somebody speak about this, and he was saying that Esau, they depict him as this villain gangster, but really he was a regular guy who was just, yes, he was a Jew, but he wasn't interested all that in being observant. He wanted the Ferraris and he wanted the mansion and he wanted to go on party, and he was a completely secular regular guy. And that is, and we have Esau. We struggle with that ourselves, you know?
We're Esau.
Yeah. And it's the actually is the strongest force that's leading this world. Even as the most observant person, they're still not like Jacob. Jacob was another level, and so was Isaac and Abraham. We won't even mention Abraham. He was the highest vibration, but we're all that. We constantly struggle with this, which Maria asked at the beginning, was all the desires and, well, what I want and what I desire, and all the things that I need in this life. And he was that, and we constantly struggle with that, with how much do I observe, how much do I give, how much do I collect myself, whether it's doing yoga, breathing, the discipline. These people were really disciplined. They just did what they had to do, period. And we struggle, not all of us in this class, but some people have a lot of will. But we struggle with that. And is that energy of Esau that lives in us. And so each character in these stories, we are those characters. We have the ability to be Jacob, but we also have the ability to be Esau.
That's why I want to address why he was told by the angel that he was going to receive a new name. Because the new name defines his new commitment to being godly as opposed to physical material.
So later on in the story, God does come to Jacob and changes his name to Israel.
He changes his name to Israel, the one with the yoke of godliness, right? Before he was the slave to God or was the observer, and now he chose the yoke of godliness, which is in all of us as well. We struggle. Is there a God? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, maybe so. The rest of the world says, well, we're occupiers, but Israel literally means the yoke of godliness, to be in the yoke, to be completely immersed in the idea that there is a creative force, that there is an appropriate time for everything, that there is such a thing as precision, that we are constantly participating in the creation of our reality. You can't blink your eyes, you can't squint, you can't take ayahuasca, you can't take some frog poison to reach consciousness. It's work. It has to be based on your willingness to overcome your own insanity and stupidity in order to come to terms with the fact that you are godly, that you are a soul, that you don't have to worry about tomorrow, that all you have is today, and that you are an active participant and not a passive recipient of circumstance.
Well, I think when you include worry into your life and into your thoughts and your desires and your beliefs, then you disconnect, because don't worry. Because then if you say you truly believe and you understand that there's a creator that's constantly guiding you, but at the same time you worry, you're like this guy from the Matrix that is doubting whether to put the foot in front of the other, whether the tile is gonna come.
Right, you're not walking with tiles, you're walking in a minefield.
Maria said Jesus walking on water. Jesus, he had this confidence, he had this certainty that it
is.
It just is. And he understood it, and he was that. He embodied that.
We are constantly. Somebody says, go start a center. And this one says, no, the center, the rent. Oh, it's a physical place. Now you're bound to it. Everybody's got a story. And so you're caught in between your own conviction and drive and God, and you gives the direction to the creative energy of what to create. Or people's stories, circumstances, statistics, and slow season or flu season. When that comes into play, you can talk yourself out of anything. You can justify and negotiate yourself out of anything. I want to move to a bigger house.
We get caught in wanting and allowing it,
Mhm.
but we get caught in the middle. So I want it, but then I won't allow it. Somehow we get stuck in the middle with the worries and all the stories and all the world caves in all of a sudden. And so we don't really allow it to just
We don't execute.
to unfold before our eyes because we don't believe deep inside that is possible.
I want you to know the guy shot himself. You know that? The guy that made that song? Don't worry.
Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah, he shot himself.
He wasn't happy.
Look at me, I'm happy. So, questions.
Yes, we had a question
What?
earlier. Why is there so much repetition within the prayers?
Who asked that? Which prayers? The Judaic prayers? Oh, we can address that here?
Yeah,
Why?
because they're the same prayers. I gave a Siddur, our prayer book is called a Siddur, which is order, and I gave it to my sister, and I was kind of wondering whether she was gonna relate to it, and she said it's the exact same thing. Like the wording and even the names for God is the same thing. Is it derives from the same source.
So, what was the question?
The question is, why are the prayers so repetitive? Why do we need so much repetition?
Because God is in the details. And it's what works.
I think because we resist. We resist so much
Yes.
that we need it repeatedly over and over and over and over again. I mean, I see Vlad with his clients. He needs to repeat things 1,000 times for some people. He does it with me sometimes. He just needs to. Sometimes he gives me an inventory. Okay, let's recap, and he does the inventory. I'm like, wow, I forgot about this, and I forgot about this, and I forgot about this. So why do we need the repetition? Because
it's a reminder.
We need the reminder.
To stay in line. And some people, they resist boundaries and they resist anything that's the same every day. It's mundane. Oh, it's all the same. No, it's not. If you don't have your own methodology, and your methodology is not going to work. This is a proven method of 3,783 or 85 years, and so it works. Well, how do I know? Because my community is the wealthiest, most successful community in the world. That's how I know.
I think there's also a little bit of disconnect. We have a disconnect. So we need to repeat things so they become that. So as we repeat, we allow ourselves to become that vibration of whatever it is that we're saying. For those of you who do yoga and listen to the songs are repetition of repetition of repetition of the words. And those words, what do? They elevate you. But what do you need to repeat the word for 13 minutes or for 30 minutes, the same words over and over again? Because we become that. We embody the vibration of those words.
What do they call it? Mantras?
Mantra.
So if you look, the Sikhs, if you know who Sikhs are, Sikhs have something called japji. It's their prayer. And they have this repetitive mantras that are absolutely beautiful and come in songs. And they definitely have their pulse on conscious understanding and vibrational life. That's where we get, people that have gone through retreats here, they know that we arm the people that come here with Kriya so that you can heal your nervous system and stop destroying yourself while you're plummeting into the abyss. So if you want to learn consciousness, the Sikhs have an incredible system.
Well, even
and it's repetitive.
Even within the system, I was going to say there's repetition for those of you who have done this type of breathing yoga, which is called Kriya Yoga. There's a repetition. You need to do the same thing. You got to start with 40 days, and then you advance with 120 days. You do 1,000 days. Why? Because it molds you. It's like making a cake. You don't grab the ingredients, and all of a sudden you have the cake. You got to put everything together, and you got to mix it. And then eventually you have a cake. But you need to allow all these ideas and all these words and all these energies and these vibrations to work in you so you become what you are intended to become.
So you can fill out the space that you're in. Anybody else?
We even repeat, I mean, at least in our religion, we repeat the prayers every day. Sometimes 3 times a day, sometimes even more. And it's the same prayers. The same prayers. Why do we need so much repetition?
Keep yourself in that loop of elevation. Prayer for elevation.
It's an energetic. It's not just the words we're praying. They're not physical.
Have you done it, Kel? Prayer for elevation?
What's the specific one for elevation?
It's
Let's just start with ego eradicator.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, it's
prayer for elevation is excellent. It's hard, but it's challenging.
It's in the app.
Yeah,
it's in the app for sure. For sure.
It's called prayer for elevation, straight up.
How was it, like an hour? And is it a really long one?
Yes, it's a little long. You can make it 40.
It starts with ego eradicator, and then spinal flex and spinal twist and life nerve stretch and so on. It's how many movements?
11.
11 movements. So you can start with 1 minute each and progress to 3 minutes each.
You also have 10 bodies, which is awesome too. But anyway, it's repetition of the repetition. And then we do it in our everyday lives. If you think about it, our lives are cycles of repetition. We wake up every day, we go to sleep every day.
Each morning I wake up before I put on. Okay, ready? 2 minutes. Question?
Can you sing us something before we go?
Yeah, you're in the singing mood today.
It's $100. You got a honey? I got you. Zelma, $100. I sing for you. Otherwise, no. So, what's the closing for this class?
I mean, it always comes down to allowing yourself to be, really, to stop being consumed and concerned in worry and choose what it is that you really want in your heart, because that's what Jacob ultimately did.
He chose.
And it changed the story. They could have been dead, so they wouldn't be.
They'd have killed each other.
They wouldn't be Romans either.
They would have killed each other because Jacob didn't stand a chance, and he did prepare a sword. He put it under his bed, but he remembered, I guess as a result of his own, remember he wrestled with the angel, which insinuates that he was wrestling with the side of himself that was planning for the worst. So instead of wrestling, choose the best and move forward.
You know, there's a part of the story that's not so commonly known that says that there was a lot of soldiers that came and fought with Esau's soldiers, and they were defeating them. But they weren't human soldiers. They were angels that were coming from Jacob's side and protecting him. And every soldier that would come into contact with the other side, meaning Esau, they would say that they know Jacob. And then so Esau started wondering, how do all these people know Jacob? How is it possible? So it also dissolved the conflict.
Because Jacob was choosing what he knew. And so the story insinuates that if I choose a bad outcome or a good outcome with Kelsey, all of a sudden spiritual entities or energy starts to dissolve her conflict in her so that she can change her perception of me that's based in conflict and fear. And that's what that means.
A lot of people who come with conflict in their lives, they come to Vlad and say, well, you're trying to tell me that if I change something in me, my family members or whoever they're having the conflict with, they're going to change? Like, that doesn't even make sense. If I change something in me, how does that affect the other person? But truly, it's everything. Because if I resolve the conflict in me, meaning I change my understanding and I change my perception, then all of a sudden I have a different reaction in front of me.
But technologically, really what happens is when you choose the new possibility, energy enters the heart from the creator and dissolves your internal conflict and adds light to your perception, so then you don't have that same perception of the person that you're going to have conflict with. You now have a loving possibility. And so you create the possibility by accepting that it's you and your perception. Yes.
Does it work the same way as far as affecting people and healing them, and not just resolving conflict, but for animals?
Does it work? Does what work? I don't have an intention. If you ask me to treat your animal, it doesn't have attachment to a way. It doesn't perceive me good, bad, or indifferent. It's pure. That's why the effects are so obvious and so instant, faster than they are for people.
But let's say the conflict is like the attachment to worry to
Your,
someone or something.
your attachment has nothing to do with my intention. So you asked if you were healing your horse, then it would matter.
Right. That's what I mean.
Right. So yes, the horse is your animal and it's an expression of the inner you. And the parasites are also your parasites and the hidden issues that you're struggling with. But when you ask me to treat the horse, you're really asking me to treat you. So the horse is not attached to your story and your perception of reality. The horse is pure. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have an old story. All it knows is what is. It's unattached to future. It's just, it is where it is. And so it receives on a much higher, faster level, and it's cured. And it's cured. Once it's cured, then it changes your perception in your relationship with what's possible, because then the horse is your healing angel. It literally, even if you had doubt in healing and possibilities, all of a sudden you see your horse after 2 sessions, it's fine, right? So then it changes your perception. So it's there for you. The horse elevates itself, but more importantly, it elevates you.
Yeah, because it expands the possibilities for you. Now you see the world with different eyes, with you know that there's a lot more possibilities out there that you wouldn't consider before.
Even though you've gone through healing.
But
Okay.
we need the reminder because we forget.
We need the repetition.
Okay. We say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Grace.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
What a great class.
Thank you.
I'm going to use it with my client.
Whatever you use it for.
Can I share the video?
Whatever, you can
Yes,
send it
you
to whoever
can.
you want.
Once I upload it and I send the link, you can share it
You can
with
send it to
everybody.
Maduro if you want.
Oh my God.
Hey, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.